no way that you can stop the shine. What up?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. David Freese is joining us here today to talk about none other than some Pokemon and some Spider-Man. I see we got a few people in the chat already. So happy to see all of you here. But David, how are you, my dude? Welcome back.
I am fucking great. Thank you for having me on again. It's always a pleasure being on. Thank you for plugging the band as well.
Of course,
it's
dude.
Great to hear that coming from the lodge. Always that support. I love it. Recently, I got my master's. I finished my schooling.
Oh, he's killing it.
So we're living life right now. This is what's going on. Living life.
That's what I like to hear, dude. That's what I like to hear. Big wins. I feel like everybody's, at least in my network, we got a lot of big wins lately.
Yeah.
Thank
God.
Thank God. We need some wins. We need some W's. But let me give it up. I want to give it up to the sages of the lodge. Those are the kind people like yourself, David, who give as little as $1 a month to fund this sicko and his operation. So I just want to give a major shout out. Got a lot of love for all of you, David, you included. But let's run the list. Charlotte Astry, Alex Pamal, David Freese, Chris Perkowski, Maria Palmieri, Shane Driscoll, Scott Castellano, Jillian Yason, Corey Barchat, Andrew Parker, Twilight Blaze, Nick Taborski, Kevin McBride, Henry Rumatza, Michael Fay, Richard Arnold, Andrew Clay, Brendan Abrams, Gaseous Snake, Orpheus Joshua, and our newest Sage of the Lodge, Brady Burleson. Thank you all very much. You have my deepest gratitude. Seriously, a lot of love for all of you. But without further ado, David, it's time for us to talk a little Pokemon.
Let's talk.
I know that you and I have both finished the campaign, so kind of give your opening statement, opening thesis. I know Gen 4 is your favorite. How do you feel about these remakes? And I'm just going to give a warning. If this is your first David Freese episode here at the Lodge, his last name might be Freese, but he brings the heat and he has spicy takes. So brace yourselves. David, how did you feel about your favorite Pokemon Generations remake?
Like you just prefaced, I do not hold back, all right? And you also said Gen 4 is my favorite, which it is. I remember logging in hours and hours and hours of Diamond and especially Platinum. And while this game does a lot of things right, it also left me feeling disappointed. Nothing really grabbed me the way I wanted it to. I get that, they were trying to keep it the same and try to be faithful to the originals, but there are so many ways you're supposed to enhance the originals. If you're remaking them, what the fuck is the point? It seems like to me that this was more like a more traditional remake.
It was a fresh coat of paint. That's what it seems like. It was a fresh coat of paint. That's what it sounds like.
More like a remaster than a remake, because everything was basically the same, except like it's only one screen. It moves a lot faster. You can go diagonally. Cool.
So I want to ask just to be
changes.
fair. I want to ask just to be fair. Are you a victim of nostalgia goggles, or do you really believe that? I don't want to say do you really believe, but Gen 4 is your favorite, right? So what kept you from enjoying this game with as much love as you had for the originals? Could it be nostalgia goggles, or do you really feel like that this game is missing something the original had, even though it's a shot for shot?
So it could be partly nostalgia, but during the world event that happened last year,
yes, the big sneeze. The big sneeze.
Yes. I actually replayed Pokemon Platinum because we all had a lot of time to spare, and I got through that in like a week, and all the things that could have annoyed me, like the health bar going down super slow, or needing 5 million HMs. It was more endearing to me because you needed to find ways to play around it. I get that they did the HM through like the Poketch in this, and that's cool. It makes things a lot easier. You can make these Pokemon really the way you want, but it takes away that, it really took away a lot of the challenge. When I was playing Platinum, I did not have an easy time at all with most of the gym leaders. The gym leaders are tough in those games. And with the EXP share and using, instead of the Platinum teams, they used the Diamond and Pearl teams. There was no challenge.
You think they should have gone more down the road of Platinum? Is sort of like remaster the master version.
100.
I just want to punch in that I never played Gen 4, so I completely missed it the first time around. This Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl was really my first experience with it. I had a good time. I really enjoyed myself. Then again, I'm pretty good at letting myself enjoy things. I did enjoy myself. I thought a lot of the supplementary content was incredible. Like the hideouts are cool as hell. The contests are a great way to mix things up. It really feels like you don't just care. Like
underground.
The underground. A lot of that stuff was great. The battle animations looked better than Sword and Shield.
100%.
There were some things that there was a lot of highlights, in my opinion. What my biggest critique of this game, and from our conversation, it's a critique for the originals as well, is the lack of diversity when it comes to wild Pokemon in the original campaign. I know there's a post game, you get the national dex, and it really opens up. But during the campaign, man, maybe 18 to 20 different Pokemon I bumped into in the wild. And I'm someone who I love the battles. I love the campaign, but I don't go to Pokemon for top tier combat. I don't go to Pokemon for the exploration necessarily. I go to it for literally the monster hunting. You're catching little demons and you're raising them to be bigger demons and bigger animals to fight. Sword and Shield actually captured that for me with the wild area, because there was something so inviting and invigorating about you never knew what Pokemon you were going to bump into next. I tell this story all the time, but I'll never forget 1 o'clock in the morning. Bless Charlotte, because I woke her up because I bumped into an Espeon at 1 a.m. and just screamed because I love Espeon. I didn't see it coming, and I was just excited. And there was just nothing with these Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearls that brought me to that level of excitement. But I will say I see what the big hot deal is about Gen 4 because the Pokemon that are original to Gen 4 are awesome. Like they look cool. I wanted to catch them and but anyway, I had a pretty good time with it, but there were things that sort of let me down in a way, especially the lack of diversity in the wild areas of Pokemon because it's Gen 4, man. Why am I seeing Geodude, Zubats, and Ponytas everywhere I look?
God.
At least give me Gen 2 and Gen 3 normies. You know, mix up the normies. Oh my god!
And especially because like they introduced all these other Pokemon that you could potentially find in the wild. It wouldn't be crazy to expect like to be able to find a Magby out in the wild or an Elekid, and you can raise that up to be an Electivire or a Magmortar, or even they put in Platinum you were able to get, so you could get like a Rhyhorn, you could get a Rhyperior before the post game, you could get a Gliscor before the post game.
Really?
But yes, so they gave you all these items to like, because a lot of Gen 4's Pokemon were like pre-evolves and evolutions of past Pokemon.
Yeah.
And they gave you the opportunity to do that within the main game in Platinum. And for a game that's looking to remake and enhance and try to make it better, why would you take away from the things that already made the game much better?
It's a good point. Again, I guess that's a good concern to raise, why this wasn't a remaster of Platinum and instead was a remaster of these base games. But I saw somebody bring something up. By the way, Not Switch jumps in with, you got Tangrowth before post game. Jilly says Pokemon Go is the best Pokemon game in history, but with a sarcasm slash in case anyone needed to pick that up. And Charlotte was complimenting your jams earlier. But
thanks.
Dude, I'm kind of with you on this because there's so much to love about Gen 4 and not enough of it is flexed in the campaign itself. I wish we got a little bit more of that. But how is...
You really had to go out of your way so bad to get that diverse team. So many people, when you play the Diamond and Pearl remakes, everyone has the same 5 Pokemon or 6 Pokemon. You have... I want you to ask anyone you know who has played the original...
Dave, hold up, Dave. Hold on one second. Yeah. We got to reconnect. I'll have to restart you, but I think we're good. Looks like everybody's back. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so get on what you were saying. Every team has the same 5-6 Pokemon.
Yeah, you could ask anyone who played Diamond, Pearl, Platinum. You're gonna get people who started with Chimchar, got the Infernape. They had Staraptor, Luxray, Gastrodon, and Garchomp. Every team had that, and that's because those 5 Pokemon were all Gen 4, and you want to play with Gen 4 Pokemon. You want to change it up.
Yep.
And maybe Roserade.
That's the worst part too, is like I actually can't, like, I have a bad Pokemon habit sometimes of sticking to some of my Gen 1 favorites. But it's so funny, I went into this one like, this is going to be the one where I really diversify it and mix it up. So the Sting was a little extra for me where I'm like, well, I got Rapidash in here again. You know, like,
yep.
I don't know. Yep. But I don't want to completely badmouth the game because it is a good game. I did have fun playing it, but all it really did, and maybe this was the point. Maybe it was like a tease because all it's made me do is look at Arceus like, can you get here already? Can you get here already, Arceus?
Yeah,
I'm ready for something new after playing that again. I'll say this.
Go ahead. What I really think happened, quickly as an aside here.
Go ahead.
I honestly think that Legends Arceus started off as them trying to do a Sinnoh remake in the newer style. And then when they realized, maybe we could do something different here. Let's cater to the old fans and do something new.
Yeah. No, that wouldn't be the
That's
first
been
time
my theory.
It wouldn't be the first time Pokemon's like routes have gotten rerouted like that. It wouldn't be the first time they were building a game with one thing in mind and then kind of had to retool it. Sword and Shield is an example of this. Yeah, no, honestly, I'm glad they chose the Sinnoh region because there's a lot of cool things to explore here. And maybe in Arceus, we're going to get that diversity of wild Pokemon that I'm looking for.
It looks like it already. You see
more Pokemon in the Arceus trailer than we do through the whole Diamond and Pearl campaign.
Exactly. Yeah. I can't. Another fucking Geodude, another Onix, another Zubat.
And it's like, look, it's fine. If you want to dish normie Pokemon at me, go ahead. But can we get Gen 2 and Gen 3 normies? Please?
Or even Gen 4 normies. Come on. The only ones that you could really find are maybe like
Bro, I found a Houndoom.
And
I wanted a Houndoom. I found a Houndoom at the very end of the game, and I was like, my Rapidash is already level 70. I'm not doing this. Maybe
that's why I really went so out of my way. What? I'm sorry?
Somebody says maybe Unova remake Copium.
Oh, yeah. Look, I hope that's a long ways away.
Yeah.
And I hope they sort of revamp the style there. I also just it's unbelievable to me that they took out any of the gimmicks. Yeah. I would have loved to have seen Mega Evolution in this game. You know, where that was like
were Mega Evolutions in the original?
No.
Okay.
They started in Gen 6.
Gotcha.
And what I loved really about when they remade Ruby and Sapphire, and I spent a lot of time playing the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire.
How are those?
Those, I really enjoyed them.
Because here's what I'm going to say. I could have, again, I'm generally a pretty positive person, but the last Pokemon remake I played was Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And when I played that, I felt, much like you were talking about, that this was an absolute enhancement of everything that we saw in the original Gold and Silver. In every way. The graphics, the animations, the sprites, everything was superior. I have to be honest. Look, everyone has their own tastes, but I actually think the DS Diamond and Pearl look better than the Switch Diamond and Pearl.
Oh, I agree.
I think the pixel art is actually better.
I've always been a fan. Who mentioned Unova before? Those Gen 5s, the animations and the sprite animations, and the battling in those games were fucking gorgeous. I really still don't understand why they moved away from that. It like you could see it was the natural progression of where everything was going, to the point where they went to 3D and everything looked so stiff. And for Pikachu to use Thunderbolt, he's standing there like this. It goes like this, and goes back to this. It's to the point where we're in fucking 2021 now. We're past these stupid little idle animations and we went off about this last time too. The last time I was on, it feels like we're talking the same shit. It drives me nuts because it's so easy. Make them fucking nice to look at. Have them run up to the other Pokemon and actually hit them. Instead of the same animation every time.
Is Arceus the elixir, David Freese, to everything that we keep repeating? By the way, shout out.
It is.
Just want to give a shout out to Mattia Sembia over on YouTube. But is it the elixir from what we've seen?
I think so, and I think that's one of the reasons why they're also trying to get that out like as soon as possible. I think they knew that we weren't going to be so
thrilled with Diamond and Pearl.
I think they knew, and they had to have something ready to go in the background. I don't think anyone, when they saw those release trailers in what was it, like February?
Yeah, back then. February, March, like spring, early spring, maybe late winter.
I think they knew, especially after that, that people weren't going to be fucking happy with these remakes.
No.
And what's a shame is that I feel like the Gen 4 remakes have been more hyped and more asked for than any of the other remakes.
Okay, yo, I got a direct question for you. And we are going to try. I got some questions submitted from Instagram earlier today. We are going to get to questions at the end, but once in a while we'll hop in here because I think this is going based on what you were talking about. Not Switch says, hey, David, are you taking a Battle Revolution battle animations? I guess he's asking, are you talking like the Battle Revolution battle animations?
Yeah, or even just what we're seeing in the trailers for Arceus. But yeah, Battle Revolution was fucking amazing.
Yep.
That was what, 2008?
Yeah, that was a long time ago. And that's what you're saying. They actually ran up to the Pokemon to attack them.
Right.
Yeah.
If you had if someone was doing Fire Punch, they actually ran up to the other Pokemon and hit them with the Fire Punch.
Jesus.
Or if they used Double Kick, they went, instead of just for Double Kick, they actually went up and kicked. You know, it was cool, and it brought more life to it.
I just want to say, I love that the audience had no shot of your lower body, but you could tell by your angles that you were kicking. So I do appreciate the physical expression to your point. But no, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because it's like, listen. It's one thing if you're a niche game series and you have your cult following and you don't have the biggest budget. But Pokemon is the most profitable franchise on the goddamn planet. And, you know, we've talked about this before. We'd just be repeating ourselves where we say, look, Pokemon used to kind of be on the forefront of RPGs, especially when it came to bringing them into the West back in their Game Boy days. Like, what the fuck was a Game Boy? And they made this full-on RPG inside of a handheld device. Like, that wasn't nothing back then. That was pretty awesome.
People love, and it took the world by fucking storm.
Yep. Yeah.
Because they were innovating and they were doing new things and they were creating more.
Bro, Eevee and Ivy training was when did that start? When did they start incorporating that?
I think I think it was in the initial games, but I think it worked differently. I'm not entirely sure. Actually, let's look that up.
Cool. So we got Matthias Sembia over on YouTube saying, I don't support remakes for Pokemon anymore, which I'm starting to get there because I'd rather them do things like Arceus. If we could put more focus into that stuff, I'd love it. Not Swish says, my opinion, that's highest point with idle animation is the Battle Revolutions, which is pretty pretty intense.
When Pokemon actually had to flap their arms to fly or flap their wings to fly.
What a concept. But I guess, you know, you do have a point, is we have to get ourselves to a point where Pokemon's animations look relatively modern. They still look a gen or two behind, which for a series as profitable as Pokemon, you know they have the resources to reinvest into better tech, better animations, more labor, you know. It's
not like it's a small company anymore. When
Not
they
at all.
started, it was the small Game Freak. It was small. And by the way, I saw it and it said it did start in Gen 1, but it was entirely different. And so when
Gotcha.
Gen 2 came around, they switched it up.
okay.
But the EVs and IVs, by the way. And what the hell was I saying? Fuck.
I mean,
I distracted myself.
Well, we've been talking battle. Let me see if we can recapture it. We were talking battle animations, Pokemon Battle Revolutions, where you actually had to flap your wings.
Right.
Anything coming back?
And that was purely just the battles too. That whole game was just battling. Imagine that in an entire experience
That would
where
be nuts.
you actually
Yeah.
And I just don't understand how you could be in the strongest Nintendo system of all time and still think that this is okay.
No, I'll say this, David. You do have a point, because when you think about what Pokemon has released on the Switch, right? We're looking at Let's Go. We're looking at these Diamond and Pearl remakes. We're looking at Pokemon Sword and Shield, which, if we're being honest, the most impressive thing they've done on the Switch is Pokemon Sword and Shield. Most notably, the
And
DLC.
that's not fucking saying much.
It's not saying much, but I do want to hand it to them. The DLC in Wild Area, if they could just do that and maybe up the graphics a little bit, I think they could Maybe have something special.
Oh, yeah.
But look, at the end of the day, I don't
And
want
not have Pokemon just kind of appear.
Right.
That
Right.
kind of threw me out of it.
Well, look, I don't want
like
to.
there are ways that you could do that.
Yes.
Oh yeah, continue.
It's all good. I was just saying I don't want to be too much of a doomer over on Pokemon because the future does look bright. At the end of the day, Arceus does seem to be everything that we've been asking for. Everything we've been asking for. The new experience, new mechanics, more engaging battles, more engaging world exploration, better graphics,
The players can be hit.
Players can get hit, better story, more strategy. Like it looks like the biggest attempt they've made at it in a long, long time. So I don't know. Like maybe Diamond and Pearl wasn't meant to be anything special. Maybe these remakes were supposed to be just sort of like a drive-by remake that sort of just takes care of business on its way.
What scares me a little bit though, right now, is that if Legends isn't all that we're cracking up to be, if it's not like the revolution that we're talking about, is that they're gonna just be like, we tried it. Let's just go back to the thing that works.
Well, that's kind of what happened with Black and White at the end of the day. Because Black and White, they did mix the bag up a lot. But when it didn't sell as well, they were like, well, we might as well go back to what we were doing before.
Cookie cutter, right.
The cookie cutter stuff. Because that sells.
Right. But it can't, that's not sustainable.
Right.
There's always going to be the people who are going to be like, oh, I'll buy the Pokemon game. It's the nostalgia. But you can't sustain on no innovation.
I agree 100%. I think that's true of anything. I think it's true of any industry, any art form. You're right. You cannot sustain without it. It could get you far. Like your legacy can carry you pretty far. But at the end of the day, people will move on to something else. People will move on to something else. I think Pokemon's got the whole what would you call it? Like monster catcher genre. Monster catcher RPG genre, pretty
collecting,
pretty well cornered. But if they kept going without innovating, I think they would run into problems. But I think that's what Arceus is here. I think Arceus is something very fresh for the series. I think it has the potential to really mix the bag up. I think it has a chance to up the difficulty, to make it really feel like an RPG and reward the player. Because don't get me wrong. There's exploration in a lot of these games, but it's not. You can't compare it. You can't compare it to other world explorers like Horizon Zero Dawn or Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which really reward you for creatively thinking maybe I could actually go through that mountain range, but I'd have to go a certain way. And then you go that way and you find this little hidden pond. And at the bottom of the pond is something really cool. So maybe you got to send your water Pokemon in there to go dig it out from the bottom. It looks like an attempt to kind of really incentivize the player to really explore, because the whole time I played Diamond and Pearl, I never felt like exploring.
Right, the classic way that they do that, we'll put in a cave. And that's basically all Diamond and Pearl were. And even though I love Mount Coronet, and it's a really cool through line for the game, how many times are we going to go through that same area and find the same Pokemon? And maybe, now we have a new HM, so maybe we'll be able to go to a different area, but it's not anything drastically different. Exactly. Maybe you'll get an item, but it's not like it's anything crazy. It's not like something that will reward you in a major way.
100%.
Oh, you found an elixir. Great job. Awesome. Nice.
Exactly. You just kind of carry on.
That's really
There's nothing more.
Right. That's really worth me going completely out of the way.
When you could just buy one, when you could just literally buy one at the Pokemart. 100% with you on that. We got a couple questions in the chat I want to address. PB and Jilly says, the remakes have been just to bring new people into the franchise. I am interested in them, and I've only played the original Pokemon. Honestly, Jill, if I were you, I would just wait for Arceus. I wouldn't touch Sword and Shield. Nothing against those games. Again, I enjoyed them, but if you're someone who's looking to hop back in, you might as well wait it out until Arceus gets here. I don't know if you share the sentiment, David.
I would. I don't know if you're looking for that like same kind of experience that you had from the initial games that you're just trying to get back into it and get that same kind of feel. I think that these remakes do a good job of that.
Which remake would you
But if
recommend? Which remake would you recommend?
uh,
I like that he's thinking about this.
it's because I could tell you that, like yourself, my favorite remakes are Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
100% are.
But there are a lot of problems with those games even now. The fact that the
So would you recommend Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire?
I think that's the one that's what I was leaning towards.
Okay.
It adds enough new with the mega evolutions, but it still keeps the basic principles of the game.
Cool.
It moves a lot faster. You'll be able to get to see the 3D-ness of the Pokemon games.
Which is epic.
Yeah, like so even like some of like the little cutscenes in those games, really freaking cool.
Yeah.
If Diamond and Pearl remakes were more like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, I think I would be more happy. I honestly do.
I think just from the little bit I've seen from Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, I think I would agree with you. Matias Mbia, we got double back-to-back message, so get ready. But it's not just Pokemon. I feel like games as a whole are not that great these days. They release them half-made or very poorly made and update them over time. There's definitely a lot of games that are 100% guilty of that.
Problem.
And I just want to say it is something we're seeing lately in gaming. But I just want to properly direct these critique. At the end of the day, I'm assuming, so don't take this for fact, but I bet you that has very little to do with developer laziness and has more to do with administrative boards saying, well, we want this game out at this time, and if it's not ready, then you're just going to patch it that summer. You know, it's stuff like that. Or they launch these games knowing they're going to be continuously patched, so they don't mind sending something out half-baked because they're just trying to get players in the door.
Exactly.
I don't think every company is guilty of that. I don't even think companies that are guilty of that every branch on that company is guilty of that. But it is a trend we are seeing with some games, and it's something that I would like to see shift over time. Secondly, they go, when a company releases a game, especially ones that release every year, they should innovate on every game, not just every few years. Okay, I could agree with that too. I suppose that applies more for your Call of Duties or your Maddens or like Assassin's Creed back in the day, which would drop a new game every year. Yeah, I'm with you. You can't have cookie cutter stuff from the last year. If you're going to make people pay $60, it's not enough just to have a new story. You need to give them new experiences. And before we move on, one last question here. Not Switch says, would you say Pokemon Black and White 2 is a remake of Pokemon Black and White?
No, absolutely not.
How would you categorize
Black and
that?
It's a sequel. It literally takes place years after the first Black and White. It's the actual, like, besides like Gold and Silver being like whatever, this is a real direct sequel with a lot of the characters from Black and White returning in new roles. Like one of your rivals, Charon from Black and White, becomes a gym leader. One of your other rivals, Bianca, becomes your pretty much professor guiding character. The story with Team Plasma moves forward in different. It's a true sequel, and honestly, those are some of the best fucking games in the fucking series. I
missed that whole generation. I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna have to go back and play them one day because I missed that whole gen.
Highly recommend it.
Gotcha.
Do I think those Pokemon are the best? Sorry.
You're good. No, you're good, man. This is why you're here, man. I talk enough on this channel. You go right ahead.
You know me. I go and go and go, and once an idea comes into my head, I gotta fucking get it out. I was not the biggest fan of the Gen 5 Pokemon.
Gotcha.
Gen 5 Pokedex seemed like, and people are like, oh, well, you know, a gear Pokemon. Well, we had a magnet Pokemon. I just think it was very much they were taking those designs from Gen 1 and just changing them slightly and making them quote unquote new Pokemon. You have another Zubat, you have another Geodude, you have another Machop, you have another Magnemite, you have another Golem, you have another.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very analogous to Gen 1, whereas, in my opinion, I think they should have just, instead of trying to follow that template, make its own template.
Gotcha.
You know?
Yeah. No, I'm hearing you. Not Switch says, so you think Game Freak should do more sequels than remakes, which I guess is kind of what you're getting on the wave of.
And
there.
which is why I was pumped about the DLC in Sword and Shield.
Yeah. No, and that was some of the best stuff they gave us.
And you got to keep the same character, the same
Yep.
Pokemon, but you got to go off on new adventures in the same. I
That's
think
cool.
that's a cool direction to go into.
I would actually agree with you. I think that is a cool direction. But I want to segue us a little bit with a question that's going to move us into our next title topic, which I think a little bit more discourse on, even though I do think we're going to mostly agree. We'll get into it. This question comes from Instagram, the Height 26. Shout out to the Mosey gang. The Height 26 says, what are you most excited for and what are you most afraid of in the new Spider-Man film? So I just want to say this episode aired a couple days before the movie came out, so no one is in any spoiler danger.
Seen it.
No spoiler danger.
There's nothing.
No spoiler danger.
No one knows what the fuck actually happened. It's all speculation now.
Exactly. So do you want to go first?
What was the question?
So what are you most excited for in the new Spider-Man, and what are you most afraid of in the new Spider-Man?
All right, why don't you go first, because I got to think of something that gets me excited about the movie.
So look, oh damn. All right, so listen, I'm gonna be honest with the audience. I think it's important for the audience to know where I come from. So, God, I have a lot to say. But anyway, this is why I'm going first, I suppose. So what am I most excited for? Seeing Tobey. And if I'm being honest, that's 95% of the reason why I'm even going to see this film. Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen every cinematic Spider-Man film. I love Spider-Man. Okay? I want to make that clear. But I've never seen any of Tom Holland's in theaters, just because I haven't been quite as interested. I guess I've had Marvel fatigue is something that's been going around lately. But I never really went to the theater to see Tom Holland's movies. This is the first movie of his I'll be in the theater for. But if I'm being honest with myself, I'm there to see Tobey. I grew up with the Tobey movies, so I have Tobey Maguire goggles. It's just my opinion, but I think he's the best Spider-Man. I think he's the GOAT cinematically. I think he's the GOAT. I don't think there's any comparisons. No shade at Tom Holland, no shade at Andrew Garfield. Both great actors in their own right. I just think Tobey had the best writing behind him. But again, another conversation for another day. I'm really excited to see Tobey for 5 minutes. If you expect anything more than 5 minutes, you're going to be disappointed. What am I most afraid of? Too many villains syndrome, like the last Spider-Man 3. So that'd be my answer. I'm most excited for Tobey.
Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, I'm most excited for Tobey, seeing Tobey, and I'm most afraid of the too many villains syndrome happening again. So now that I've said my piece, I'm sure we're going to talk plenty Spider-Man in this segment. David, how are you feeling?
Yeah. Excited for. I'm excited to see what actually happens in terms of the choice that he's inevitably going to have to make in the end. Because from the trailers, we see that he's trying to put his identity back into the bag. And inevitably, there's going to come a time at the end of this movie where it's going to be like, do I keep my identity public, or do I have to take all the risks that go along with the spell, where MJ and this person and that person don't? Where I really hope, to be honest, that they do go with that he does make the choice and is like, all right, you know what? Maybe it's better off for everyone that no one knows that I'm Spider-Man. I think this was a cool. Tom Holland was a cute experiment, but he's not Spider-Man. He's fucking Tony Stark Jr. All right. And I'm so sick of everything that has to do with this Spider-Man relating back to Tony Stark. In Civil War, he was recruited by Tony Stark. In Homecoming, his villain was shut down by Tony Stark. In Spider-Man 2, his villain, again, shut down by Tony Stark. Also, the whole movie revolved around Tony Stark being dead. Sorry for spoilers for a 3-year-old movie at this point. But it's just the way that they have handled this Spider-Man is not right. And it does a disservice to the character. It does a disservice to his entire supporting cast. And it does a disservice to what Stan Lee and Steve Ditko and John Romita Sr. and any of the people who developed this character. He's not there. He's got none of that great power comes great responsibility. He's got none of the attachment. You got Uncle Ben mentioned once in all of these appearances so far. It's like enough is enough. Make him his own character. Stop shoving him in with other heroes and stop giving us this Iron Man Jr.
Okay. There's a hot
I'm
take,
sorry.
dude. No, honestly, here's the thing. There's a lot of what you said that I agree with. I wouldn't put it as harshly as you because look. Here's the bottom line, David. We're gonna talk about the real thing here.
Yeah.
You are a comic book reader. You have read Marvel comics your entire life. What Peter Parker is to you is a lot,
especially Spider-Man.
Yes, that's worth pointing. Spider-Man and Superman were huge with you.
Yes.
But the truth is, the Spider-Man that you know and love is not the Spider-Man the cinematic audience knows and love. It's two different. At the end of the day, it's two different audiences because it doesn't translate to book sales. It's not the same as on anime and manga where you see a feedback loop between the two. They translate. The cinematic universe does not translate to the comic world, and much the same way, the comic world does not translate into the cinematic world. So I think the fact that there are two different audiences is really at play here. Now, I want to say, if Tom Holland is your favorite Spider-Man, that's okay. Maybe there's something about this character that you really love. Maybe there's something about this character that you really empathize with, you know? Maybe his social situations are very similar to yours. Maybe that relationship with Tony Stark, maybe you have someone in your life you feel that way about. So, look, if Tom Holland is your favorite Spider-Man, that's perfectly fine. I think he's a brilliant actor, by the way. He's a really good actor.
You're wrong, but okay.
Okay, fair. That's fair. I think Tom Holland's a good actor. But
no, he's a good actor. He actually is.
I feel you.
I'm not gonna hate on the guy.
Going into what you said, because again, I came up during the Tobey time. Those were my Spider-Man movies that I saw in theaters, which were not perfectly in line with the comics. There was plenty of variation and modifications made for that cinematic story. But when it comes down to who Peter Parker is, what troubles him, the choices he has to make, the things he has to deal with, the external circumstances that put him between a rock and a hard place, they are very, very different. Honestly, both Tobey and Andrew's Spider-Man. All of that is very, very different than what's going on with Tom. Tom very much is, say what you will, his own unique Spider-Man. For better or worse, good or bad, he does stand kind of as a separate thing from what Peter and Andrew were portraying. And again, I want to make it clear, that doesn't make something good or bad. You're welcome to have your own opinion about that.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
You know, of course. But I'm much more with you, dude. I like the Peter Parker who, you know, he can't, like, how do I put this? Like Aunt May's house.
Can't pay his rent.
Can't pay his rent.
Right.
Because he lost his job, because he was trying to deliver the pizza, but then he saw the robbery on the corner, and he stopped. He had to go be Spider-Man for 2 minutes, and then he was 2 minutes late delivering the pizza. Now he lost his job. Now he can't pay rent. He can't help Aunt May, whose house is getting foreclosed, just because he's in this tug-of-war between these two identities. And you don't see any of that in the Holland film. So that's why I've always sort of preferred the Tobey side of things. But with that said, you brought up something very interesting about this movie. It looks like Tom's going to have to make a choice. And the choice is going to have to be, nobody knows I'm Spider-Man. Is it possible that Marvel... I think we might have gone offline a second here. All right, we're going to wait for this to reboot. We're going to wait for it to reboot. I think we're okay now. Yep, we're okay. All right. My bad, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you sticking with us. Pizza time. But anyway,
we now return you to your regularly
scheduled programming here at the lodge. But is it possible that Marvel and Sony and the writers recognize the very critiques you brought up? That, hey, so much of this character just revolves around Iron Man, and so many people know he's Spider-Man. Is it possible they might use this as a vehicle to hit the reset button so that we go back to a world where nobody knows he's Spider-Man, Tony Stark isn't around anymore, and he's now taking it upon himself to solve these issues? Because let's be honest, this is not Marvel's last Spider-Man movie. This is not, I could be wrong, but it's not going to be Tom Holland's last Spider-Man movie. I actually think it's very possible that they recognize the very critiques that you've brought up today, and they might be using this movie as a way to hit the reset button so that they can put Peter Parker back into his roots.
I would be completely impressed if they did that. And that's why that's my most excited part of the... most excited that I am for the movie.
Yeah.
If they go in that direction, if they really do notice that, you know what, we can't sustain a character just being Iron Man Jr. And we're talking like
that's why I hope he loses the suit by the end of the film. I hope by the end of the film he finds a new suit. He needs a new suit.
I hate
he needs a new suit.
The Iron Spider, whatever it is, where the micro whatever moves and there's his face, like, that also that Iron Spider suit, the orange and the yellow. It's I never thought it looked right.
No, because Spider-Man's blue and red. That's
right.
That's what he is. He's the primary.
And I hate the black and red. I hate that they changed it to black and red. What the fuck? Just give us Spider-Man.
Black is edgy, David. Black is edgy.
I know, but there are so many you could take. There are so many inspirations you could take. You could take from Stan Lee, or you could take from Dan Slott, or you could take from J. Michael Straczynski. You could take from all these different runs where you could... There are so many stories that they could use with just Spider-Man and his supporting cast. Why are you shoving him in with Happy Hogan? Why are you shoving him in with Iron Man? Why are you shoving him into the Avengers? Spider-Man in the comics, until Brian Michael Bendis started writing him, wasn't in the Avengers. He'll team up with people, like he teams up with the Fantastic Four. He'll team up with the Avengers, but he's a solo guy. He's got enough shit to worry about.
Yeah, no, he literally can't balance his own life. He does not have time for the Avengers.
Right.
Yeah.
Let him be that
David, I
hero.
want to ask you, what does this film have to do to win you over? What does this film have to do to win somebody like you over? What are key points?
Okay. You have to treat Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe with respect. Their villains were so great in those movies where they had such relationships with Peter Parker, and it seems like the villains from the trailers noticed that it's not the same Peter Parker, but I would really like to explore those relationships a little more, but I really just don't want Doc Ock to be just a big CGI mess. You know, in the original Spider-Man 2, the arms, those were all practical effects. You had people with sticks hold that, like, that stuff is cool. But now it's just going to be another CGI whatever, and he can like phone it in, you know? It gives more of an excuse to like just kind of stand there and deliver your lines instead of.
Okay, I got you, but I want to keep us focused here. What does it have to do to win you over? I know the CGI would lose you, but tell me what wins you over. Respect to Goblin and Doc Ock. What else?
Respect Doc Ock. Don't rely. Have the other Spider-Man maybe play a necessary role, but I don't. While I don't want to see them for only 5 minutes in just like the scene at the end, I won't. I
think
don't
that's
want
what
them.
we get. I have to be honest. I think that's not to interrupt you. Keep going, but I do think that's what we get. But we'll get on that later.
Right. So that's I think the one extreme, and then the other extreme is, excuse me, making the entire movie about these other Spider-Man and not have it be Tom Holland, because at the end of the day, we haven't even given him the chance to be his own Spider-Man.
And that's a good point, too. For all our critiques, Tom Holland and his Spider-Man have not been given the chance to stand on his own 2 feet. He's always been standing on somebody else's shoulders. Yep. And if we're being honest, just with the cast of this movie, it's no different. But I'm with you. We can't have it. At least I would prefer it. I know I would love this movie infinitely more if it wasn't just... And if it's not Toby and Andrew stealing the story away from Tom. There's got to be a happy medium in there somewhere. And look, we don't need a whole bunch of Toby and Andrew at the end of the day. Uh-oh. I think the internet's crapping out again. Jeez, it's been a rough night for this. But you know what? It always makes a comeback. It always makes a comeback. But, at the end of the day, you want to see... I want to see Tom learn from Toby and Andrew. I want imparting wisdom. That's what I want for these characters.
Here's I just thought of this one thing that could make me a little bit happy, and I know it's a little bit cheesy.
We like cheese. How many people prefer cheeseburgers to hamburgers? We like cheese.
Fair. I would love for Toby Peter Parker to actually introduce and say the phrase, with great power comes great responsibility. And that's what gets him to make that choice that, okay, I have to do this on my own.
That's where I'm so
that
with
would
you,
get
dude.
Me.
If this movie ends with basically, like you said, Toby imparting the Spider-Man wisdom, bringing Tom Spider-Man to its roots of with great power comes great, and I do think you're going to get that. By the way, I think before Toby Spider-Man steps back into the void to go back where he came from, he's going to say that to Tom's Peter, like, remember, Peter, with great power comes great responsibility. I do think you get that. I do think you get that cheese.
Oh, I hope so.
You're going to get that cheese all over your plate. I wouldn't worry about it. But I would love that. I would love if the future of Spider-Man here is he has this crossover with these other Spider-Men, and that basically after they're imparting wisdom, his story is no longer about Iron Man. His story no longer requires Doctor Strange to cast spells. His story no longer requires other Spider-Men to infiltrate his movie and other villains to infiltrate his movie. You can now do a Tom Holland Spider-Man movie that's just that. It takes place in Queens, New York. The problems are in Queens, New York, and they're exclusive to Peter Parker. I think that would be an amazing point. I think that would make this movie actually something that I loved and wasn't just something I got nostalgia baited into going to see. Because I know I'm so open.
And that would excite me for the future, too.
Yes. I think that's how this movie can win people like yourself over and get people like me who, again, I am self-aware. I am being nostalgia baited into this. But that doesn't mean that I can't leave loving what I saw.
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple comments from Bobby M. Bobby M. Hashtag white.
Bobby M.
Hashtag white horizon over here. Maybe it's not Tom Holland's Spider-Man. It's having to fit him into a team of other people, and that cast was around 10 years prior. Legitimate point.
Yeah.
Legitimate point on all fronts. Not Switch says Venom suit is heat. Probably referencing when you were talking about all the Spidey suits. I do like the Venom suit. I will say.
Oh, yeah.
And then Bobby says, what if they just used a different Spider-Man? I'm not sure if no, because I don't think Tom's the problem necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think Tom is the
writing.
problem.
and trying to fit him into this universe.
Yeah, because the universe is too big for him. Peter is a small town kid, even though it's Queens, which is big city, but he gives you the small town
friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Not your friendly galactic interdimensional ripple effect. Like, yeah, you're right. It's friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He saves old ladies from falling off buildings. He says, imagine Toby gives the line and they make a joke out of it. I'd riot. No, like,
I'd be so pissed
if they like humiliated Toby Spider-Man or made him like the butt of the joke. That would hurt. That would hurt.
That's one
because
that's
Toby Spider-Man is my
of.
hero. Toby Spider-Man is my hero. Okay, I just want to make that.
Will
fucking
Toby
clear.
Spider-Man be the same without Sam Raimi writing for him or directing him? That's what I'm nervous about too.
It's a legitimate concern. It's a legitimate concern. Again, look, I'm going into that film, and I think everyone would be wise to. If you're like me and you know that you're being nostalgia baited and you want to see Doc Ock and Goblin or Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire, just remember it's Tom Holland's film. And this movie is going to be about him and his Spider-Man. So don't expect anything more than for them to show up at the final battle. Like, I think you'd almost be a little silly to expect anything more than that. I think the final battle is the best you could hope for. I think it could still be epic. They could stick around after the battle,
Yeah.
Like
Have
low
some
key though,
talks.
the scene I want more than anything, absolutely more than anything, is the three Spider-Men at a diner, and they're trying to figure out how to split. And they're trying to figure out how to split the check. like that's the I would. Love that. I want the epic battle. I want the with great power comes great responsibility. Or like imagine, oh God, I swear I feel like the fucking fan service I crave is actually not good for this movie. But like imagine, like you remember in Spider-Man 3 when he does Bully Maguire and they play that song with the saxophone. Imagine a montage of them suiting up in their Spider-Man suits to that. So like, I don't know. Like the concept is so ridiculous. I feel like they have to be playful with it to a degree and not treat it like it's this super epic, amazing, groundbreaking. It's like, no, this is kind of silly. Like, we're let's have fun with it. Is it
fucking Spider-Man is silly, man.
Spider-Man is silly. That is true.
Spider.
Bobby says Spider-Verse 2 gonna be lit though. Yeah.
Oh, did you see the trailer to that?
No, I don't do movie trailers anymore. I try to stay away because movies are short enough that the trailers just always give away too much. I know I'm watching.
But I honestly think. Oh yeah, I think Into the Spider-Verse was the best Spider-Man movie out of all of them.
I would
disagree. Put it above.
I disagree. I liked Into the Spider-Verse. I might even love it, but I definitely think it's the most overrated Spider-Man movie.
Oh my God! How
it doesn't mean it's not great. Look, that doesn't mean it's not great. That doesn't mean it's not great.
Oh.
I just think it's just my personal opinion. I just think people hype that movie up too much. I think the Spider-Man 1 and 2. I think Spider-Man 1 and 2 are still the best Spider-Man movies to come out to this day. I think Into the Spider-Verse is a proud and shining bronze medal. That's my opinion. I got Tobey's 1 and 2 as the top 2 movies ever for Spider-Man. I got Into the Spider-Verse at a very healthy number 3. That's just where I'm at.
All right. To me, I just love the continuity, the soundtrack, the art style, man. It looked like you were watching a fucking comic book.
Yeah, no, the art was
And
great.
as a comic book reader, to me, that was like, where they actually showed like thought bubbles and stuff, and like
the panels going. Yeah,
that stuff that's so like different and cool, and something that you don't really see anywhere else. And I think that the part of the success, the sad thing is that was such a success that they're rushing this third Spider-Man to be another Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes, it is I think the success of Into the Spider-Verse definitely helped this movie get made. I also think we got to be real. The memes made this movie happen. The memes,
the pointing,
all the Toby memes, the Bully Maguires, the Toby in the MCU, all the power of the memes made this movie a reality. And I hope they don't let the memes down. And honestly, I think it could be a very good movie. As far as modern comic book movies go, like, I don't think I come out of this movie saying it's my favorite Spider-Man movie. I don't think I come out of this movie saying it's my favorite MCU movie. I think it could be fun.
No.
I think it could be fun. I think it could be entertaining. I think it could be funny. I think it could deliver a lot of fun moments. And I think for a brief moment with Tobey's Spider-Man, everybody could feel that inspiration they felt when he was your hero back when you were a kid. You know what I'm saying? I think this movie will deliver everything it's designed to deliver. But I think what remains to be seen is how do they set up Tom Holland's Spider-Man for the future? Because he can't keep relying on everything else. He can't rely on the Iron Man. He can't rely on Doctor Strange, S.H.I.E.L.D. He can't rely on Tobey and Andrew putting butts in the seats. You know, it's time for the MCU and Disney to step up and make Spider-Man the heavy hitter he's always been. Spider-Man stood alone, grossing hundreds of millions of dollars before comic book movies were cool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man did it before Nolan's Batman. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Spider-Man showed us that this whole world of cinematic universes was even possible. You know? It's time for them to look. They see him as the next Iron Man. They see him as Iron Man Jr. Well, you know what? Maybe in rank he could be, but it's time for his character to go back to its roots. And I think it's very possible that's what this story is designed to do. I think it's possible. I could be optimistic. I could just be holding on to hope.
I hope so.
I could be projecting my own desire onto this thing. But at the end of the day, Spider-Man's going to
There's nothing we can... Right.
Yeah.
It's not like we can change it.
Nope. We got to take it for what it is. You got to take it for what it is, and you can't set your expectations too high. At the end of the day, especially with something like this, because I know, you're going to see that guy on the internet. Like, no matter how long Tobey and Andrew are in the movie for, somebody's going to go on a rant about it being too short. Whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's 30 minutes, well, they should have been there the whole time. You know, it's going to happen. So I would just caution anyone to get their expectations too high. But at the end of the day, the movie's supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to deliver us something unique. Because at the end of the day, like, it's not like we've ever seen two previous James Bonds infiltrate another James Bond film. Like, this is cool, interesting, and unique in a way that even Endgame wasn't, right? Because this is literally not pulling from its own cinematic universe. It's literally pulling in two other cinematic universes. So that alone is an exciting concept.
So also what I've been thinking recently is that I think they wanted to jump on that before the likes of like the Flash movie comes out. Because the Flash movie has been rumored for a very long time. There was casting and stuff. And they brought in, as you know, Michael Keaton's Batman. He's coming back.
Yep.
So they're like, oh, maybe we could bring these people back. And then I feel like that started picking up. And they just happened to make this movie before that movie. But if you don't think that competition between those two companies is still going on, and if you think that, you know, DC is starting to just concede or whatever, there's no way that's happening. That's never, ever going to happen.
Does the DCU ever get its act together?
Oh, no. And I think that's what this Flash movie is going to be. I think that's going to do what I hope this Spider-Man is going to do, and reset it and course correct and take the best things, which I didn't think there were many of the DCEU, but try to take whatever. I know, I'm such a fucking hater. And I also, and it's so bad. I'm so bad. I'm that angry fucking fan on the internet.
That's why we have you on, David. You spice it up. It'd be too boring if we were just here gushing over it, right?
Right?
Yeah.
You got to be able to critique. You got to be able to say what you don't like.
Well, because think about it, right? Think about it, right? Like, you're setting this bar. You're drawing your lines in the sand. Now imagine this movie actually meets your standard.
Yeah.
Imagine this movie does do the things you're hoping it does. You're going to be that much more pleased that
Yeah.
much more pleased.
Like Shang-Chi, when that came out, I saw the trailers for it. I was like, all right, I'll go see it. It's Marvel. And to me, that was one of the most different, probably my favorite origin movie since like phase one. Like
Really?
they did so much different. Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Because
No, I've never
they
seen
went
Shang-Chi.
so
I never saw Shang-Chi.
they went so different because in you notice if you notice in the Marvel origin movies, it's a company takes over, and then you got your hero putting on a suit or finding someone else, and
It's all.
quip,
There's a
quip,
lot of
and
the same formula going on with Marvel movies, especially the origin stories, like you talked about.
the villain has something to do with the hero, and
So what did
Ant-Man
Shang-Chi
was the
mix
same.
up?
Doctor
If you
Strange
could
is the same.
if you could spoiler free to the best of your ability, tell us what did Shang-Chi mix up about that formula?
The culture, the way that it connected to the rest of the MCU, um, the characters felt real and you could relate to them. It wasn't the same cocky asshole that a lot of those MCU movies have. Doctor Strange and Iron Man are key points. The effects were the fight choreography where they're fighting in there's one scene, I won't spoil it too much, but they're fighting on a bus.
Oh,
and
shit.
the choreography there is fucking excellent.
Yeah.
Really, like, and then
Was it a CGI
that
fest, or did we have like actual like stunts and combat sort of? Like what kind of
at
vibe
the
was
end, yes, there was at the end there's a big like CGI thing, but
Gotcha.
throughout most of the movie and throughout like up until the end, the choreography and the kung fu and the fighting was actually really well done and not crazy CGI. It was unfortunate that it was sandwiched between two of the worst Marvel entries in Black Widow and the Eternals.
Yeah, I have not heard good things about Black Widow or the Eternals. But I'm pleased to hear you like Shang-Chi. I am pleased to hear that.
Yes.
It's good to know you
Black
can like
Widow,
it's good to know you know how to like something, David. It's
exactly.
Oh God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not completely a cynical asshole. But no, Black Widow, there were too many times in that movie where she should have just been dead. And it drove me crazy. She was falling from the fucking sky without a parachute. She should have been dead. Come on. She's just a spy. She's not fucking Iron Man. She's not Captain America. And I don't want to spoil too much, but there's one scene where she's in a car, gets blown up by a rocket launcher. The car flips over into a subway stall, and she gets up and she's just like limping and she's walking away. No, you're fucking dead. You're fucking fuck out of here.
But what about the Eternals? What happened there? Because I don't know jack shit about the Eternals. I don't think anybody did.
No one does, and I don't think anyone really will after this movie. It was so boring. Nothing happened.
David, okay,
the powers were ill-defined.
I need some positivity. I'm craving it.
Okay.
What is your golden age of comic book movies? What is your golden era? Like, what is the golden pocket for you?
Comic book movies in general, where like the golden age. No, it's a tough question because you have. I would put it in the 2007 through. You know what? I'll even give it 2004 to 2012.
Wow.
2004.
What are some of the films
like
that are sticking out to you from that period?
Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises, Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, and the Avengers.
Do you think the buck stopped at the Summer of Rises
X-Men,
and Avengers?
You have
Days of Future Past, dude. Days at First Class was so sick.
Awesome.
Sick. Yeah. No, honestly, I think I'd agree with you. That 2004 to 2012, from Spider-Man 2 to the Avengers, that whole pocket is pretty brilliant.
None, except for maybe X-Men 3. But
the third one's always the worst. The third one's always the worst. Everybody knows that.
And it's not like you didn't enjoy that movie either, you know?
Exactly.
To me, there weren't really any huge misses at that point.
And you had a few, like you brought up Spider-Man 3. I think it's a funny movie, but it totally missed the mark. Too many villains.
I think it gets more. Yeah, I think it gets more flack than it should, because a lot of the stuff with Harry and stuff like that was interesting, but
they kind of fucked up Harry and MJ, if we're being honest.
Oh yeah,
they kind of really fucked those two characters up in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
And again, too many fucking villain syndrome. I don't know why you thought you were fitting Goblin, Sandman, and Venom into one movie.
And
retconning
the same thing.
And retconning Uncle Ben's death was a fucking crime. Crime.
So dumb. And
Oop, David, you still with us? Might have lost David, ladies and gentlemen. Might have lost David. He might be back.
Electro, and you had...
He's back.
The Goblin.
There you go. You made it back. You left us for a second there, but you're back from Mars. But yeah, no, I mean, like you said, the second Andrew Garfield Spider-Man was a lot like that too. But yeah, dude, look, we're coming up on an hour and 15. Is there anything we've talked about?
Shit.
Yeah, dude, it flew right by. Is there anything we haven't touched on
every
yet?
Time.
Every time. Is there anything we haven't touched on yet that you would like to talk about? And anyone who might still be with us in the chat, now's a good time to get your last questions in.
Yeah, get those questions in. I would like to hear some more. Yeah, I'd like to hear some more opinions on, or maybe some retorts for what I've been saying about Spider-Man.
Brendan Abrams just dropped in. Damn, I just turned this on. Well, dude, drop a question, dude. We're doing questions right now, wrapping it up. But, dude, it's the floor is yours if you got one. Let me check, because we did a lot of this as we went. Like, we took out some of the questions from social media as we went. So if anybody drops into the chat with something, what do you think about NAFTA? Well, we don't do politics here, Brendan. You might need to find a different channel. We don't do. Where's that Black Panther meme? We don't do that here. That's what I need right now. But yeah, dude, look, it's been a good time. What are you most hyped for about 2022 games? Okay. Nothing to do with the title topic, but I'm about it. David, what games are you looking... Let's close it out here. What games are you most looking forward to in 2022?
Oh, I think... Well, definitely Arceus. But isn't that Suicide Squad game coming out?
I don't know.
This year?
I do not know.
Or is it the next year? I'm hyped for that. That looks really cool. What can we pull up a list of some of the things that are coming out, maybe?
Well, you pull up that list. Let me hit up Abrams with an answer here. I know for me, I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy 16. I'm looking forward to Breath of the Wild 2. I'm looking forward to Pokemon Arceus. I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy Strangers of Paradise. I'm looking forward to... Running out. I'm running dry. That's what I got on my list right now. I don't know if I'm missing anything, but those are the games I've got on my list right now. What do you got, Dave? What do you got?
That Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game that's coming out.
A new
It looks
Ninja
like it's
Turtles
going-
game?
And it's basically going back to the roots of like 3 Turtles in Time.
Turtles in Time?
That beat. Yeah, it's like
It's
a
a
beat 'em up
up.
like that.
Yeah, yo, I'm kind of down with that.
Fucking
Oh,
for
I'm
that.
looking forward to Chocobo GP. There will be live.
Oh, yeah!
Live. Yeah, Charlotte just dropped it in the chat. Yes, we're doing Chocobo GP in the Lodge. All are invited to the Lodge Chocobo Grand Prix, March 10th. Definitely looking forward to that. Abrams, I want to follow up with one thing he says here. He says, tell me why David is already hating on Spider-Man, even though it hasn't been released yet. I thought David was fair in his concerns. And Abrams, if you watch it back, I got him to lay out what it would take for this Spider-Man movie to win him over. And I don't think he was unreasonable, especially given that he is a legacy fan and comic reader. I don't think the standard he set was unreasonable. But yeah, Chocobo GP, baby. Super fucking hot.
Oh yeah, we're freaking in. I'm so freaking kicking everyone's ass.
Let's go, baby. It just looks like a cuter. It looks like a cuter Mario Kart. Like,
and you can't go wrong with that.
yeah, it's a fun little racer. 64-man lobbies. Yo, Matthias has, who would you like to see as the next villain for Spider-Man? I assume he means after this film. I think that's a great question for you, David. Who do you want to see become Spider-Man's villain post No Way Home?
Post No Way Home, I would love to see Kraven the Hunter.
Kraven the Hunter.
Kraven the Hunter, one of the seminal Spider-Man stories, Kraven's Last Hunt. Everyone should read it. It's fucking great. It's very dark. Spider-Man basically gets buried alive by Kraven. And Kraven's whole goal is to replace Spider-Man, and then at the end you find out that he has cancer and that he's dying and stuff, and he just wanted to replace. Yeah, and he's actually been dead in the comics since then.
That's heavy, dude.
So it's fucking awesome. It's fucking great. I don't think we need any more Venom. Let's get an actual good representation for the Lizard. I think they touched upon him in the Amazing Spider-Man, and I thought it was all right, but I think that movie was very middling, and they tried to like shove him too much involved in Peter's past.
Yeah,
when he really should just be that mentor character. I would like to see the MCU's take on maybe the Hobgoblin. Maybe someone sees what's going on with the Green Goblin in this, and they take inspiration from the Green Goblin in this movie, and they're like, all right, let's maybe he's like, all right, I'll be Spider-Man's biggest foe. Something like that. Yeah, those would be my top ones.
All right.
Raven is definitely my number one.
I like it. Abrams says, I don't know if you talked about it, but he was supposedly the villain for this movie before they took the multiverse route. I believe it. This movie, as excited as I am for basically No Way Home multiverse, it definitely looks like this was something that kind of interrupted their plans. Not in a bad way. They could end up being a really good thing. And he says Lizard was great in his recurring role in the 90s Spider-Man animated show. 90s animated cartoon shows are the best. Batman the animated series, the X-Men series, the Spider-Man series.
Superman the animated series.
All those 90s cartoons hit the nose on the head.
Which they're bringing back that X-Men animated series too.
Yeah.
They're bringing it back.
Leave it alone. Just leave it alone.
I don't know, but it didn't end great.
Leave it alone.
Great.
It's beautiful.
I want a better ending.
Enough with the nostalgia baiting. Leave it alone.
It wasn't great.
It's beautiful
I would like a
as
better
it is.
ending.
It's beautiful, just like the Batman animated series. It's beautiful as it is. Make something new. Make something new.
Yeah.
Anyway. I want to wrap us up here unless anyone's got some more questions. Matthias says, thanks for answering. Well, thanks for hanging out, Matthias. You've been hanging out from the beginning, dude. Appreciate having you here. Everybody who's on Twitch, please stick around for the raid. Raids are important on Twitch. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and migrate over to Twitch for the raid so we could make somebody's night a little bit better. But before we wrap it up, David, thank you so much for coming on. You know you're always welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You know you're always welcome in the lodge. Give the listeners a last word, where they could find you, the whole
Last word.
spiel.
All right. You can find me on Instagram. You could find my band. We're back and we're writing music. And Brown
Links in the
Sugar and the
chat.
Blind Albinos. It links in the chat. Listen to the EP. And we have about 4 new songs that are like completely ready to go, ready to be recorded. We're in the process of trying to find a way to record, and sneak preview, there might be a show coming up sometime soon. The return.
The
Great
return.
return. So keep your eyes out for that, and we'll bring back the tunes, all right?
They're going to bring back the tunes. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Brown Sugar and the Blind Albinos. That is David Freese, the bassist. And honestly, you guys have been so supportive of the Lodge. They are the soundtrack of the Lodge. They are the beautiful, beautiful tunes you're hearing right now. Before we wrap this up, I'm going to drop their link in the chat one last time. This is their Spotify link. Check out their EP. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. It's been another great night. Dave, thanks for coming on. And we are going to raid... Let's raid the homie Bassist Gaming. He's streaming Super Smash Brothers. Everybody loves Smash Brothers. So get on over there.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Get on over there. Get into that raid. We're hitting up our boy Bassist. Everybody, thank you for hanging out. Much love to you. David, thank you for coming on, bro.